If you're single, are you selfish? I'm Dr. Greg Popcak, here with my wife Lisa Popcak. We're the authors of Just Married, a Catholic Guide to Surviving and Thriving in the First 5 Years of Marriage, and the founders and directors of the Pastoral Solutions Institute, a telephone counseling practice for Catholics. So I think a lot of people really feel like, or at least are accused of being selfish because they're single, and I think a lot of single people bristle at that idea because most folks don't consider themselves to be selfish in that sense of I'm not going to do these things for you, or I'm going to intentionally not share this thing that I have or whatever. But is that really what we're talking about when we talk about the selfishness in the single life?
Well, I think that we have to be on guard, of course, for people who are saying that just to get us to do what they want and objectify us. Oh, you're single, so you should always be my personal babysitter.
Yeah.
That's being used, and that's something we need to brush aside and realize that.
Because what else do you have to do
exactly
except serve me?
You just have to serve me all the time. But that idea of making ourselves available to serve others has to be more intentional in the single life. Once you're married, and God knows once the kids come along, planning what you want during the day or having that routine can change up in an instant. You're trying to get a good straight 8 hours of sleep and your kid comes in and, throws up on you. Or, you're trying to plan this thing in your day and your spouse calls and says, I had a flat tire. Can you come and pick me up on the side of the road? And you're instantaneously lifted out of your comfort zone and into a place where you have to be self-donative. You have to make a gift of yourself. In the single life, it's a little bit easier to become more insular and sort of say, this is my schedule. This is when I'll volunteer and make a gift of myself. But this is when I go jogging. This is when I, read my book. This is when, and it becomes more selfish without us even realizing we're sliding into it just by lieu of our schedule.
There might be maybe a way to kind of think of it in terms of maybe an active selfishness, which we all know and are all aware of and all try to avoid. Right. That idea of, intentionally saying no to someone when I should say yes. That intentional withholding of myself or my gifts or my things because I want my stuff for me, Right. But, that's not what we're really talking about. If there is selfishness in the single life, it's more of a passive kind of a thing where, like you were just pointing out, I have to choose to give myself to other people. Right. I have to make an effort to put myself in a place where I have to accommodate to others, but when I go home, I get to watch what I want to watch, and I get to eat what I want to eat, and I get to do what I want to do because I'm not bumping up against somebody all the time. And that's not necessarily a bad thing in and of itself, but it can lull me into a sense where I have to carve out this big swath of time that's just for me. Mm-hmm. As opposed to in that more relational mindset, that's more the exception than the rule. This idea of me time is really much more the exception than it is the rule in healthy relationships. Most people get charged up by being in relationship with other people and having to accommodate and having to grow and stretch on an ongoing daily basis. And the single person has to make a special effort to do that and sort of just be conscious of that need to get out with other people and need to accommodate to their needs and desires and wants and all of that, so that we can just keep growing and learning from each other and expanding from that.
Well, I love that idea of, being conscious about it, because anytime, no matter what our state in life is, whether we're religious, married, single, when somebody cuts into something that we had planned and gets us out of that kind of like, oh, everything's right in the world because I'm doing it my way mentality, of course we're going to go, oh. When your kid calls for you in the middle of the night for that other drink of water, your initial reaction is going to be, oh, really, do I have to? But if when we make that gift of ourselves, when we do something for someone else, either in our own household or out of it, if once it's done, we feel more edified, we feel more of who we are, we feel like we were a blessing and somehow those people blessed us, that's the stretching out of our comfort zone that could become selfishness, that brings us into self-donation, which is the antidote to selfishness. Making a gift of yourself to work for the good of others. Not just to throw yourself around and say, check off this volunteer thing, but to really work for the good of others and to help them to be everything God called them to be.
So, again, is the single life automatically selfish? No, of course not. But you do have to be more intentional about looking for those opportunities to share yourself with others, not just actively, but in those passive situations too, so that you're inviting people into your world so that you can grow and stretch just as God's calling everyone to do at every state in life.
And to look at it as a spiritual exercise. You know, when we make a gift of ourselves, it's truly a gift that will be a spiritual exercise, not just blessing other people, but helping us to grow into the person God wants us to be. And then if God calls us into religious life or married life, we've exercised our muscles enough where that next step in our lives becomes so much easier to fulfill, because we've been doing that workout every day intentionally. And it's that intentionality that's going to bring us closer to Christ and closer to other people.
Hey guys, I hope that you enjoyed our video. And don't worry, there's plenty more where that came from. Check out the other videos to my side and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you don't miss out. We also have a great guide for online dating right here that you can download absolutely free, and a ton more resources at CatholicMatchInstitute.com. And by the way, if you're single, check out CatholicMatch.com. Creating an account and searching for other Catholic singles is totally free. So what are you waiting for? Sign up today!